Okay, we're recording.
Good morning, Octopus.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just let me share my screen here. Alrighty, so this is following on, this is the next in our series of making Octopus love Java. This was a discussion that Rob E. and Matt C. and I had a few weeks ago, and I just realized that we'd never really shared this more widely, so I thought I'd mention it today. Calamari.Java. So a little brief history of Calamari first. It's been the deployment utility since Octopus 3.0. It gets shipped with every deployment that happens. It makes sure that the latest version's on that server. It is currently a .NET 4.0 executable, and it's pretty small, or at least it has been. It's growing all the time. But it's still, I think it's still on the order of 10 megabytes-ish, something. Anyway, it's smaller than the numbers I'm about to throw at you anyway, let's say that. So when we started working on some of the Azure functionality, we hit a bit of a snag. The Azure SDK libraries require .NET 4.5, and we also redistribute the Azure PowerShell because some of our Azure functionality relies on it. Over time, that Azure PowerShell got bigger and bigger and bigger till it got to the point where it was nudging 100 megabytes. So the solution that we came up with to solve that problem was we created another executable, Calamari.Azure, and it included the Azure PowerShell libraries. It was a .NET 4.5 executable, and it never gets transferred to deployment targets, so it didn't matter that it was enormous. It always executes on the Octopus server because the Azure steps execute on the Octopus server. So, Octopus plus Java. Some of the issues that we started to hit with the Java support are very similar to the issues we were hitting with the Azure support. We need this to be .NET Core because we want it to run on Linux targets as well as Windows, and we need to redistribute the Java runtime along with it, which is big. So introducing Calamari.Java. The solution we've come up with for this is similar to the Azure solution. We have created another executable, Calamari.Java. It will contain the commands for deploying the Java components. The difference between this and the Azure one is this thing actually will get shipped to the target machines because we need these steps to run on tentacles because we're doing things like deploying packages, executing scripts, whatever. So the Java runtime will be shipped to the target if it's not present, slightly different to the Azure PowerShell in that with the Azure PowerShell, they had to opt out of using the bundled one, whereas the approach that we're planning to take with this is that by default, if they have it on their machine, we'll use the existing Java runtime. We'll only ship it if it's not there. And this executable is a .NET Core executable. So the initial step that we've bundled into Calamari.Java is the deploy Java archive step. It's very similar to the existing deploy package step, except it's not. It extracts the archive so it can run stuff on it can, for example, do variable substitution on the files within the jar file, and then it repacks the jar file up again at the end before moving it to the target directory. So in that case, it's a little bit like the Cloud Service Azure step, which does something similar. And this step will probably form the base of the other Java steps that we create. They'll just be implemented as features that that inject themselves within the various stages of this step, similar to the way the IIS and Windows Service features work with the deploy package step. So this was a compromise. This Calamari.Java was not where we originally wanted to be. We've talked about this a lot over the previous months and years. It feels like the end goal we all like the idea of is moving towards self-contained steps that bundle their own UI. This would be potentially better for a community library, and we could ship our steps like that as well, versioning the steps independently. Lots of goodness, but there's still a few missing pieces to getting there. So this was, I guess, a compromise, just a pragmatic decision that would let us ship something. We only have a couple of us working on this at the moment, so that would be a whole piece of work in itself. Yeah, and doing the Calamari.Java doesn't stop us from getting there. It just requires the same work that all the rest of our existing steps would work to then extract those back out and split them up. One of the big the things that need to be solved in moving towards that is how we bundle the UI with those steps. Roberez did quite a lot of work on splitting out the Calamari steps, but we still never solved the UI problem. And there's a few other issues as well. But that's where we're at. And yeah, does anyone have any comments or thoughts?
How big's the package you're going to ship?
How big is it? Calamari.Java is tiny. The Java runtime is... Matt Casperson, are you on the call? No. It's... I actually don't know off the top of my head. I think it's somewhere on the order of the Azure PowerShell, so somewhere between 50 to 100 megabytes.
I think that's right. Last time I downloaded.
Yep. So it's big, but it should hopefully rev infrequently.
So what do we need why do we need to ship the Java runtime? Sorry, if that's being a bit obtuse. Like if it's for Java, deploying Java steps, surely they'll have Java on that machine. Or else why would you be deploying a Java step?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The answer, I guess, is, for example, one of the steps that we want to do is, just for an example, deploying to a Tomcat server. The way you do that is to interact with the Tomcat API. The libraries to do that are all written in Java. They don't have .NET equivalents. So it just felt easier to... And for example, you might not want to, there's no reason you couldn't run this step on the Octopus server, for example, but deploy to your Tomcat server. So I guess that's why.
Yeah, I think the key is that the Java runtime isn't for the end product that they're using. The Java runtime is there because there's certain parts of this that we wanted to use Java libraries to do the interaction with more than anything. Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess you could run it on a tentacle that wouldn't be the machine Tomcat's running on.
Correct. I mean, but this is maybe an open question, though. We could just say you must have Java installed on that machine to run it.
I reckon just say you've got to have Java installed.
It's only shipped once, though.
It's only shipped once, and it hasn't been the approach we've taken with other things. It's just one extra little bit of dependency, and you know,
is it typical for Java apps to ship the runtime?
No.
Yes.
Yes, that's it.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah. Team City, you go to all these different things.
On Windows it is. In Linux land, is it typical?
Minecraft does.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Can we make it an option, or just like?
Well, it effectively is optioned. We will detect. So
okay.
if it's installed on the target server, it won't ship.
Easy.
So basically, the detection takes place at the same time, in the same way at the moment we do the Calamari detection, where in the script it goes, if Calamari doesn't exist, upload it and try again. Basically, there's another part of that goes, does Java exist? And it's a Java step. If not, upload it and try again. So it's kind of in that same sort of process. And I imagine we might have other dependencies at some point in the future where you want to detect before you do the main work.
Exactly.
So that is pretty optimal. That's a good story, I think.
Are we shipping .NET Core with that too?
No, the .NET Core, the Calamari is bundled with .NET Core in it. It's a self-contained executable, or there's an option to ship it portable Calamari. But in that case, it just assumes that .NET Core is installed. I feel like that's okay because you've explicitly opted in there. You've said, I have .NET Core installed on this machine. So I guess effectively we are shipping .NET Core because we're shipping a self-contained Calamari.
Yeah. So yeah. So that will add another.
It's 15
It-
megs. That's very good.
Correct. It bumps Calamari out to somewhere between 10 and 20 megabytes. Yeah.